What's up YouTube? This is King of the Randoms here with a Call of Duty video. And in this video, I will be talking about my top 10 aftermarket parts for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, the 2023 version. Now, we have officially gotten through all 6 seasons, and as far as there being any new content added to the game, there's not expected to be any. And there certainly aren't any more expected aftermarket parts. But before I jump into the top 10 list, I first want to give a huge shout out and thank you to my channel members, especially those who go above and beyond to be S tier and elite tier members. The King's Court holds it down for this channel, and I appreciate all of you. Now, before we actually get into the top 10, I do have a couple of honorable mentions that I'd like to include on the list. First up, I would like to give an honorable mention to the Jack Glassless Optic, and also a couple of muzzles, the Jack BFB muzzle and the Quartermaster suppressor. You can kind of go back and forth between the muzzle and the suppressor if you want to go loud and proud with the Jack BFB, or if you want to keep things more quiet with the Quartermaster. I will say, the Quartermaster is the better option if you're a Warzone player. Nobody uses the Jack BFB in Warzone, okay? And when it comes to the Jack Glassless, there's nothing really special about it. It's just a clean look. It does dip a little bit your ADS speed, but it's only 2%, and that's really going to be negligible for most players. Okay, so now let's get into the top 10 list of the best aftermarket parts in Modern Warfare 3. Starting out at number 10 is the Jack Requiem for the Cast-Off 762 or Cast-Off 545. It's a really good aftermarket part. It does good with recoil. It does have some bullet drop-off. I personally prefer the Cast-Off 545 over the 762, but that's just me. You know, overall, it's a pretty good aftermarket part for an MW3 weapon. Now we move on to number 9, which is the Jack Annihilator Bullpup Kit for the Pull-em-Yacht 762 LMG. What this effectively does is gives you a lot of mobility and speed. It increases both and just about everything else with the gun. Some of the cons for it is its effective damage range goes down a little bit, and of course it being an LMG, it does have a slow reload speed. But it's a very solid aftermarket part. One of the oldest aftermarket parts we have in the game, and still one of the best. Up next at number 8 is the Jack Wardens conversion kit for the Lockwood Mark II, yet another MW2 weapon. This is a dual wielding aftermarket part, which effectively takes this marksman rifle and turns it into a shotgun, a dual wielding shotgun effectively. So hipfire and tac stance spread is some of its strengths. The reload quickness is another thing, and also allegedly target flinch. But some of the cons for this is bullet velocity and the rate of fire that you get for it being a dual wielding weapon. It makes up for it a little bit because it's a akimbo. You can shoot one weapon at a time. You don't have to shoot both weapons at the same time like I often do. Some people are very good with this in multiplayer. You know, if you've ever seen anyone in your match twirling a couple of dual wielding shotgun looking thingies, chances are it was this weapon with this aftermarket part. Up next is a Jack Revenger kit for the BP50. Now, I was a little bit hesitant to put this one on the list because this conversion kit is something that you can see often in Warzone. You know, it's one of the guns that's added around the map for you to use, just like the FJX with the conversion kit that it has on it. You can find that around in Warzone as well. Its mobility is increased, sprint to fire, rate of fire, magazine size is up to 60 versus either 45 or 50. I can't remember which one you get when you don't use the conversion kit, but it does have some cons. You know, it being a BP50, it converts it from being an AR to effectively being an SMG. So your damage range and reload quickness are some of the things that you will probably be losing out on a little bit if you use this. But I do believe that in a recent update, they allow you to now be able to use something other than 9mm rounds in this conversion kit. You can let me know in the comments if that is the case. I can't recall if you can or not. But yeah, if we were able to add some different ammo other than 9mm, it could go up a little higher on this list. But for now, it is number 7. Okay, and now we go to number 6, the newest aftermarket part, the Jack Voltstorm. This one can be a little controversial because it's an aftermarket part for the Storm Ender. And if anyone has played a game with the Storm Ender, you realize just how horrible of a launcher it really is. It just sends out an EMP pulse, basically. This kind of does the same thing, but it uses a high voltage electricity shot, which, you know, does a lot of damage. It can one shot at close range, especially in multiplayer. It does have infinite ammo because it's the Storm Ender after all, but the downside of it is you have to charge it in order to shoot it. So it's not going to be a very, very rapid fire weapon. You know, like I said, this one could be a little controversial and it wasn't going to be on the list. But I played a game of Shipment. I looked up and I was constantly getting killed by a guy. And I looked up on the kill cam and I saw a Storm Ender. And I'm like, how in the world is he killing me with a Storm Ender? It's because he had this aftermarket part. So I recommend you give it a try. You'll die a lot, but you know, it's a fun aftermarket part to play with, especially on a small map like a Shipment. Alright, now moving on to number 5, we have the Jack Ferocity carbon kit for the Renetti. And what this does is effectively turns the Renetti pistol into an SMG. Because it's a Renetti, it has a fast fire rate. It does make it into an automatic weapon as well. So fast fire rate does decent damage. It is a pistol after all. The cons is the magazine size. So even though it's effectively an SMG conversion kit, you can't necessarily get the larger magazine sizes that you can get on other SMGs. Up next is the Jack Nightshade rifle kit at number 4 for the DG58 LSW LMG. We have yet another LMG on this list, and this is just overall a decent conversion kit. I mean, it really takes this and ups the rate of fire, it ups the speed, it ups the mobility of this weapon. It does have a little bit of you know, drop in damage due to recoil. The bullet velocity isn't as great as it was, but this is overall a great conversion kit. I mean, it's just a very solid one. It does limit your magazine size, as many of the conversion kits do, but this is not a bad aftermarket part at all. It's very solid, and I do recommend you guys give it a try because it's one that I don't think a lot of people have given a chance to. At number 3, we have the Jack Devastators conversion kit for the Reclaimer 18 shotgun. Now, prior to the release of this aftermarket part, I thought the Jack Wardens would be the only conversion kit for a dual wielding weapon on this list. But the Reclaimer is just a beast of a shotgun, however you want to slice it. But going into that weekly event, I did not have high hopes for this. But I was wrong. You know, you add this onto the Reclaimer, you get semi-automatic fire rate, you have an akimbo shotgun. What it lacks though is the magazine size and the reload speed. You have 4 rounds per magazine in each weapon, and when you're out of ammo, you find yourself sitting there trying to do the Sarah Connor thing from the Terminator, where you're reloading a pumped shotgun with one hand, except this time you're doing it with both hands, and it can take a while for you to actually do that. So it's nice to look at, but in practicality, while you're fighting, you may want to get in cover more so than with other weapons while you're reloading. Otherwise, you will probably get shot up quite a bit while trying to reload. But it is overall a great aftermarket part. Number 2 is the Jack Raven kit for the MCW. So this one I ended up putting pretty high on the list. I mean, this takes the MCW and gives it great mobility. It has excellent hip fire damage. Sprint to fire is increased as well, but it does lose some of its damage range. It does have a bit more recoil on it, and this conversion kit, like some of the others mentioned earlier, does limit the magazine size. But still, this is a very good conversion kit for a weapon that gets used quite a bit in Call of Duty and Warzone, but not necessarily with this conversion kit. You may want to slap it on and give it a try, see what you think about it. I personally think it's a pretty good conversion kit for this weapon. And last but not least, what I consider to be the number 1 aftermarket part, the Jack Cataclysm conversion kit for the RBK. Yet another LMG and yet another MW3 weapon. This effectively makes the RPK into a sniper, and it's one that will knock you down in one shot. It will take you out in 2 shots. The pros for this is the damage. Period, point blank, it's the damage. The cons is that it gives a decrease in pretty much everything else across the board, but the damage is dramatically improved. If you're going to be sitting back on a big map or in Warzone, just taking shots at people, this is a good one for you to have. You put a nice scope on it, and you can really do some damage. You won't get the range that you get for a sniper, but you know, from medium to semi-long range, you can really do some damage. In Warzone, or some of the bigger maps with this weapon, by far, you know, a meta for medium to long range, which is what matters in that game. You know, you add a scope to it and you can go to work. And there you have it. That's the top 10 list of MW3 aftermarket parts. Let me know down in the comments what you think. If I've left something off the list that you would consider to be a top 10 aftermarket part, let me know about it. If you've not tried some of these aftermarket parts and you've given them a try, let me know how they worked out for you. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please drop a like and share it with someone who may want to know a little bit more about aftermarket parts and some of the advantages that you can get for using them in your builds. This is King of the Randoms, and I hope to see you all in the next video or live stream. Take care, everyone.